Drug testing should be required for welfare recipients. Over the last 2 years, several states have proposed that drug testing be required for TANF recipients, and if the recipients test positive, that they forgo benefits for a set amount of time. TANF, which stands for Temporary Assistance for Needy Families, is a government program that provides a small amount of monthly monetary assistance, granted that the family meets the guidelines. In some states, the legislators have proposed that anyone receiving unemployment, medical, and food assistance also submit to a drug test. This has become a very controversial topic because the opposing side feels that the poor families are being targeted and that the drug testing is a violation of the people's Fourth Amendment right. The ones in favor of requiring the drug testing believe that substance abusers will be able to get help, and this in return will help the children. It is vital that we have welfare reform. This will free up state money. Those who need and deserve help will be able to receive it, and we will help tackle the war on drugs. TANF is exactly what its name implies, temporary assistance. In Missouri, a person is allowed to receive TANF for 5 years, and there are special cases where extensions are granted. 5 years is an ample amount of time for a family to establish or regain its financial stability. In my opinion, 5 years is too much time. Temporary assistance is a wonderful program offered by the state, but is being abused by many of its recipients. That is why it is important to require drug testing. If drug testing becomes a requirement, social workers will be able to randomly screen people who they think are using drugs. If the drug test is positive, the individual would be ineligible for TANF benefits for 3 years and would be referred to an approved substance abuse program. Once a parent is deemed ineligible for benefits due to them failing the drug screening, the child's benefits would not be affected. A protective payee would be assigned to oversee the children's benefits. The state government is very lax when it comes to placing restrictions and rules on anyone who is eligible to receive such aid. In order for one to be eligible for aid, they must meet specific income guidelines based on the number of members in their family. Missouri should only allow a family to receive TANF for 1 year, and during that year they should be required to complete a job training program, which will give them necessary skills to find a job. There are several different approaches that we as a nation need to take to help the people. If we help and train the older generation, then maybe the children of today will learn how important it is to work and not become welfare recipients themselves. I have firsthand knowledge of those who abuse the system, the type of people who trade their EBT card for drugs, take their TANF money and buy drugs and useless items, or the ones who use their Medicaid to go to a doctor and fake an ailment to receive a narcotic. I grew up in a family like this, and they had no reservations when it came to doing such horrendous things. This is a lifestyle to them, nothing more and nothing less. The opposing side of the welfare reform bill says that children will suffer if the parent loses the state aid. Well, I strongly disagree with that statement. Regardless if there is drug testing or not, that child is not getting the government assistance used on him or her anyway. Many times we would be hungry and our mother received assistance because there were more important things than making sure the food stamps were used to buy food for our home. This is not always the case, but it happens more than one may realize. I interviewed several different people to see how they would respond to the question at hand. Overall, I was not shocked by the general consensus. The majority of the people that were interviewed said that they were required to submit to a drug test to get their job, so those who receive aid should be held to the same standard. Those interviewed feel that since their tax money is used to fund the TANF program, as well as the other government programs, that the recipients of state aid should be required to take a drug test too. During one of my interviews, Leanne had a very amusing point. If a person applies for assistance and fails the drug screen, they should be able to complete a rehabilitation program and get their benefits back. I replied, "That is absurd. You expect the state to pick up their rehab tab and to pay for them to get high too? Not all people who do drugs are bad people." I was told the, quote, "not all people who do drugs are bad people," unquote, statement by 4 different people, and to me that was shocking. I'm not going to pass judgment on if they are good or bad, but I do not think that taxpayer dollars should have to pay for their drugs and for the unnecessary items that they tend to buy. TANF is to be used to help pay bills and to help buy the necessities, not to buy drugs, alcohol, cigarettes, pay for tattoos, and many other things. The state has every right to require drug testing. Substance abuse among welfare recipients has caused public concern, as it rightfully should. Studies have indicated that substance abuse affects the well-being and social performance of TANF recipients. Substance abuse has been linked to unemployment as well as crime and negligence of children and even abuse. Welfare recipients feel as if they are being targeted by legislators who just want to pick on vulnerable people. This is not the case at all. Legislators are trying to find a way to help the substance abusers as well as to help the state by removing some of the extra unnecessary costs. The opposing side has said that the testing will cost the state roughly almost $17 million a year. If we spend the money to get rid of the welfare players, then I see that the state will have more to spend on important things. The state will be able to help those who actually need help, put more money into schools for better education and eventually job training, as well as invest more money into our police. We will need more police and equipment because once the system leeches are cut off, they will either clean up their act and get a job, or they will decide to follow a pattern and commit more crimes. In conclusion, we are all in favor of a drug-free America, but many do not want to take the necessary steps to achieve this. I believe that many of us have needed help at one point or another in our lives, and there is nothing wrong with that, as long as you do not abuse the system. Drug testing is one of the better ideas that has been discussed in a long time. We have to start change somewhere. There is no need for welfare recipients to feel targeted, especially the ones who do not use drugs. The individuals who pay taxes to support the TANF recipients are required to submit to a drug test, so they feel that the people who receive their money should also submit to a drug screen. If we try and get help for the substance abusers, then we can rehabilitate some of them and help them find jobs, so they will get off the assistance. I realize that there is a stigma for those who receive welfare, and that people associate those who receive welfare as being lazy and generally drug abusers. This is not always the case. But there are a great deal of those who do abuse the system. Drug testing will help us weed out the ones who are wasting our money and contributing to a horrible drug war.